RAF Tangmere, which was in Tangmere, 3 miles east of Chichester, West Sussex, England, was a Royal Air Force station famous for its role in the Battle of Britain. Famous Second World War aces Wing Commander Douglas Bader and the then inexperienced Johnnie Johnson were at Tangmere in 1941. History. First World War. The aerodrome was founded in 1917 for use by the Royal Flying Corps as a training base. In 1918 it was turned over to the American Air Force as a training ground, and continued as such until the end of the Great War in November of that year, after which the airfield was mothballed. In 1925 the station reopened to serve the RAF's Fleet Air Arm, and went operational in 1926 with No. 43 Squadron equipped with biplane Gloucester Gamecocks. Second World War. As war threatened in the late 30s, the fighters became faster, with Hawker Furies, Gloucester Gladiators, and the Hawker Hurricanes powered by the famous Merlin engines, all being used at Tangmere. In 1939 the airfield was enlarged to defend the south coast against attack by the Luftwaffe, with Tangmere's only hotel and some houses being demolished in the process. The RAF commandeered the majority of houses in the center of the village, with only 6 to 8 families being allowed to stay. It was only in 1966 that the village resumed its status as a civilian community. In August 1940 the first squadron of Supermarine Spitfires was based at the satellite airfield at nearby Westhampton, as the Battle of Britain began. By now the villages had mainly been evacuated, and extensive ranges of RAF buildings had sprung up. The first and worst enemy raid on the station came on the 16th of August 1940, when hundreds of Stuka dive bombers and fighters crossed the English coast and attacked Tangmere. There was extensive damage to buildings and aircraft on the ground, and 14 ground staff and 6 civilians were killed, but the station was kept in service and brought back into full operation. Throughout the war, the station was also a secret base for the Special Operations Executive, who used the Westland Lysander to fly agents in and out of occupied France. For the resistance, the SOE used Tangmere Cottage opposite the main entrance to the base. Today the cottage sports a commemorative plaque to its former secret life. Later in the war, as the RAF turned from defense to attack, the legendary group captain Douglas Bader, the legless fighter ace, commanded the Tangmere wing of Fighter Command. Today he is commemorated in the Bader Arms public house in the village. 616 Squadron, which included Johnnie Johnson and Hugh Dundas, arrived at Tangmere in late February 1941. Johnson went on to become the highest-scoring Western Allied fighter ace against the Luftwaffe. Many of those killed at the base, from both sides in conflict, are buried in the cemetery at St Andrew's Church, Tangmere, today tended by the Commonwealth War Graves Commission. American RAF pilot Billy Fisk, who died at Tangmere in 1941, was one of the first American aviators to die during the Second World War. Post-war. After the war, the RAF high-speed flight was based at Tangmere as part of Central Fighter Establishment. In September 1946, a world airspeed record of 616 miles per hour was set by Group Captain Edward "Teddy" Mortlock Donaldson in a Gloucester Meteor. After his death in 1992, he was buried in St Andrew's Church. In September 1953, Squadron leader Neville Duke became holder of the world airspeed record when he flew a Hawker Hunter at 727 miles per hour. The 50th anniversary of this event was commemorated in 2003. Number 38 Group Tactical Communications Wing RAF and 244 Signal Squadron were the last units to leave the base, relocating to RAF Benson. In the late 1950s the flying was restricted to ground radar calibration and the Joint Services Language School moved there. Amongst those taking a one-year course was Richard Marquand, better known as being the director of the Star Wars film, The Return of the Jedi. In 1960 the station was granted the Freedom of Chichester, and the event was marked by a march through the town and service in the cathedral. Some of the last flying units to be based at the station included Number 245 Squadron RAF, Number 98 Squadron RAF, Number 115 Squadron RAF, BFLT No. 22 Squadron RAF. In 1963-64 the last flying units left. The station finally closed on 16 October 1970. A single Spitfire flew over the airfield as the RAF ensign was hauled down. Present use. Following the closure of the RAF station, some of the land around the runways was returned to farming. Tangmere airfield nurseries have built large glass houses for the cultivation of peppers and aubergines. Until 1983, 37 acres of barracks, admin blocks and repair workshops remained derelict until bought by Seawards Properties Limited. Housing soon spread around the airfield, and much RAF building was demolished and offices houses retained as homes. However, a few original RAF buildings remain, including 3 T2 type hangars, the control tower, fire station, NAFI, Airmen's Institute and one of the H-block accommodation buildings. The majority of the airfield is now farmed, and since 1979 the runways have slowly been removed, thus returning the whole airfield back to large-scale farming once again. The derelict control tower forms part of the farm but is now bricked up and partly overgrown. Tangmere Military Aviation Museum. Tangmere Military Aviation Museum was founded by a group of enthusiastic veterans. It has a replica Supermarine Spitfire and Hawker Hurricane as well as many original aircraft, including Neville Duke's speed record Hawker Hunter. On display is the Star Meteor flown by Teddy Donaldson when he set the world airspeed record in September 1946, breaking the 1,000 km/h barrier. Bus number 55 runs from Chichester bus station to the museum throughout the day, including Sundays. 34,067 locomotive. A number of Oliver Bulleid's light Pacific locomotives were named after Battle of Britain squadrons, stations, or commanders. One such locomotive that is preserved and still in mainline operation is named Tangmere.